day are alive and well in many ways, and that's not going away.
This is the North American Service broadcasting on 17.70, 15.42, 12.05.
How you will worship her together.
What have you done to its eyes?
The next time you're frightened in the dark, don't scream.
They are not what they claim to be.
You're listening to Radio.
The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ. You're not going to say this with me?
We're doing exorcism.
The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
To listen to Radio Grave today.
Come back next week for Radio Grave Podcast. It's Sunday. Have you prayed today?
I did.
I haven't prayed.
I prayed I wouldn't shit my pants on air.
I don't pray, I manifest.
Welcome back to Radio Grave. I'm here with Amber.
I'm here with Dom.
And we left off on our last episode talking about exorcism. We're still talking about the possession and exorcism of Clarita Villanueva. And we went over everything that was going on with her and what exorcism is in the Catholic sense. And we're going to get started with an exorcism today.
Yeah. And if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, what are you doing?
Yeah, you shouldn't be here because you kind of need the context.
Just consider this to be one big episode. We can't do this to you. It would have been like a 4-hour episode.
Yeah, that's a lot for some people.
It's a lot for me. I can't sit and it's like fucking hardcore history. So
I watched a 6-hour trial the other day.
Was it good?
I was just sewing.
Oh.
It was fine.
That's fine. This is a trial and error opening, but it's okay.
Power through it.
Power through. Anyways, yes. So thank you for coming back for part 2 of Clarita Villanueva's possession. We are just going to start, like Dom said, on the possession. Fucking Lester Sumrall, or on the exorcism, sorry. Lester Sumrall gained access to Clarita by saying that God spoke to him and that he is able to perform a treatment on her, which basically means he can do an exorcism on her. Mm-hmm. So Lester Sumrall arrived at Old Bilibid prison the same day that he was granted permission by the mayor.
That's fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
So first, he visited with Dr. Lara in the prison morgue. Again in the morgue. That's where he lives, Dr. Lara. So Dr. Lara was shook by his experience still, like that he had with the Alfonso, and described the bites that appeared in front of him to Lester Sumrall. When speaking, Dr. Lara's hands shook. He was like afraid, literally. And he had been asked to convince the public that the case was not spiritual. So he's like forced to like be like hypocritical against his own like beliefs and like what he saw, which is very unfortunate for him.
Because he's, like we mentioned in the last episode, he was on the radio and Lester Sumrall heard him being like, yep, it's not spiritual. Nothing's wrong. It's all good.
Right.
When and never mentioned that he was bitten.
Yeah.
Or that he saw bites
form, but he like denied it on the air
because he was told to. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like probably to like settle down the hysteria. But his faith had like been rocked, and he told Lester Sumrall, quote, "I am humble enough to admit I am a frightened man." So Lester Sumrall explained his theory of the 3 powers.
Okay.
And so this is what the 3 powers consist of: God's power, human power, and devil's power.
Okay.
He believed that she was under the power of the devil. And Sumrall proposed the answer of an exorcism, and Dr. Lara agreed. So he convinced the mayor and he convinced Dr. Lara. Mm-hmm. But Sumrall would actually like state later that he found Dr. Lara to be very easy to convince, which is like not great.
Yeah. Because dude had seen all this stuff and he's like, yes, exorcise her.
Yeah.
Do it.
Literally. And I think that that's a little opportunistic. So Sumrall requested Clarita be kept away from any other religious or spiritual visitors, which, okay. But he also requested that she receive no more medical treatment whatsoever.
Oh, no.
It's fucked.
That's not how that goes.
Yeah, literally. So he ensured Jesus Christ would gain all of the glory for Clarita's deliverance.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's like, this isn't for me. This is for God.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, Jan. Sure, Jan. So, a meeting was set up between the pastor and Clarita for the following morning, May 20th at 8:30 a.m. Sumrall left the prison, returned home, and fasted for the rest of the day in order to prepare himself for the exorcism. The next morning, Sumrall arrived at the prison right on time. He was accompanied by a swarm of reporters.
Oh, great.
They wanted to witness the exorcism, but Sumrall did not want to allow them to watch. When he discovered they were sympathetic to his cause, he welcomed them to witness.
He's like, oh, you're down with it? Okay, let's go.
Right.
Yeah, come watch me. I'm amazing.
I think he was like, I don't want a bunch of reporters to come in and like see my failure, because maybe they're not believers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But like, since they were like, we believe you, we have faith in you, he was like, okay, let's go, Slay Queen.
Let's go. You're going to love this.
It's just a huge red flag to me. So they all mobbed their way into the prison chapel. It was a small, dilapidated room with metal bars. I mean, this is barely a chapel. And only moments after their arrival, Clarita was escorted into the room. And immediately upon entering the room, Clarita grimaced at the pastor. And she gestured towards Sumrall menacingly. And in English, she yelled, "I don't like you."
Nice.
"I don't like you." Like that.
In the Lord's English.
Literally.
I don't like you.
I don't like you. But okay, like we said in the previous episode, we mentioned she did not speak English. So just the fact that she said this was a surprise. She had done the awry thing. And now she's like, "I don't like you." She had only spoke Tagalog her whole life. So it was strange that she did this, obviously. She was forced to sit on a wooden chair across from the pastor. And he stared at her. She stared back at him, and he was not afraid of her.
Okay.
Again, how can you be afraid of her? She's a malnourished, bitten up, fucking 4 foot tall, 90-pound woman.
I'm afraid.
So Sumrall just smiled at her, and he explained he was there to deliver her from evil in the name of Jesus Christ. And in response, Clarita began raging and screaming and crying. She said that the thing would kill her, and she just begged to be left alone. She feared that she'd be bitten to death by the entities, basically. And Sumrall leaned in to see the bite marks for himself, and to his amazement, they were there. So I think her fear is valid.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the morning, Clarita just convulsed and screamed to an audience of reporters. And she spoke clear English the entire time. This is the first time that she's, like screaming out in English. And obviously, like a lot of the doctors speak English. Some of the witnesses speak English, like the colonel and chief of police. But
she never learned English.
No.
She wasn't educated.
She didn't have the opportunity, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, she'd only been really living in cities just on this as a homeless girl. Yeah. So she spoke in clear English the whole time, and she just cursed death upon him over and over and over. And Sumrall believed that this was actually just the devil speaking. He told her he wasn't leaving until she was delivered, which is scary. Mm-hmm. And Sumrall prayed aloud while fresh bite marks appeared on her body. And this was witnessed by several reporters. And they would print, quote, "The sight sent a cold shiver down our spines. They did not in any way resemble human bites." They'd continue, "In the first place, it was too large for human teeth. In the second place, the bite was completely round. Anybody may find out for himself by actual tests on his own arm that a human bite is elliptical. And finally, we were all to discover that all the teeth marks appeared to have been made by molars.
Whoa. So it's just a round mouthful of molars.
Literally, like,
That's
"Gah!"
fucked, yeah.
And they're like, in the newspaper, they're like, look, listen, take your arm, bite it.
Yeah. Look at that. That's not a circle of molars. That's an oval of teeth.
That's an oval of teeth. I do find it interesting that these bite marks are described a little differently than the others.
Yeah, the others were like its front teeth and incisors.
Yeah, yeah. And these ones are different. And I think that, I mean, if it is one single entity made up of two beings, maybe they would have two different mouths. So by lunchtime, they were like, time to eat. Clarita. Ham sandies. So by lunchtime, Clarita collapsed to the floor. She was exhausted by the attack, and she laid completely still and refused to speak. Sumrall was trembling and decided to call it good for the day. He told the press he'd return the next day for part 2, Clarita's deliverance.
Wow.
Sumrall left the prison, returned home, prayed, and fasted for the rest of the day. So I guess he didn't eat ham.
Loser.
The next morning, May 21st, Lester Sumrall arrived at the prison once again at 8:30 a.m. With him was 2 assistants, Reverend Arthur Alberg and Reverend Robert McAllister. Sumrall asked prison officials to limit access to the press because Sumrall was pissed off at the press. A Manila newspaper printed the headline, "The Thing Defies Protestant Pastor."
Oh, he's like, I can't have that. I can't have that in the media.
Yeah, he was feeling a little self-conscious. So he needed a calmer, less crowded chapel to be able to successfully do his treatment. And without privacy, Clarita would not have a chance to be delivered.
Okay.
So that was his reasoning, when truly he was like, oh, they're on my side. Like, everyone's going to watch me cure her. Because I don't know if these people are totally convinced themselves or if they're faking. I feel like maybe Lester Sumrall was absolutely convinced that he was a faith healer and that God was going to work through him. But then the reporters were like, well, can we watch? And he's like,
yeah, of course.
He he didn't have full faith that it was going to work. But then once he was like, oh, they're like religious, like they believe in this. But then he like couldn't deliver her in one day. So anyway, that day, with only a handful of others in the room, the pastor sat across from Clarita once again. She told him she had not been attacked during the night, and he assured her the battle was hardly won. Although Sumrall tried to keep the chapel a controlled space, reporters from the Philippine Free Press managed to sneak past the guards and observe the entirety of Sumrall's second round of treatment. They would publish, quote, Reverend Sumrall knelt before the girl and took her hands into his. He asked her if she knew him, and she said that she did. But after a moment, while the minister was invoking the Lord to liberate this little creature from the devil, Clarita's countenance changed. She became wild-eyed and screamed at the minister before her, telling him to go away. The minister alternated prayer and sacred song with invocation for the Lord's help and exhortations against the devil. It's a lot of big words that I just said. Invocation for the Lord's help and exhortations against the devil. But Clarita continued to scream. When Clarita seemed to cower away from him in unrestrained fright, he covered her eyes with his hands and told her not to be afraid, as he was going to bind the hands and feet of the devil that morning. I hate that. I can't imagine a full-grown man grabbing my face and covering my eyes, and I feel like maybe that's what that picture is of him with
his hands over her eyes.
Yeah, his
where it looks
thumbs.
like he's shoving his thumbs in her eye sockets.
Yeah, he looks like he's thumbing her eyes. That sounded weird.
Gouging him.
Gouging, yeah. Thumbing. That's okay. Anyway. So to continue, quote, but the struggle continued in intervals. Clarita was as meek as a lamb, and at the prodding of the minister, she said she liked Jesus Christ. However, in the very next moment, she grew violent and cursed God, telling the minister to go away. At one stage of the proceedings, Clarita became so violent and hysterical that she fainted. The minister then turned around and informed those present that they better go down on their knees and pray for their own salvation. Everybody was on his knees in a jiffy. I think I would be too. Perspiring and growing visibly weary by his efforts, Reverend Sumrall resumed the task at hand. He slapped Clarita until she came to, but in no time at all, she was screaming again. After about an hour, Clarita's face seemed to soften. She became more attentive to the minister before her. In reply to all questions, she told him once again that she liked Jesus Christ. At this state, the minister recited the Lord's Prayer, and Clarita followed him. The minister asked if Clarita was still afraid of the thing, and she replied in the negative. She indicated that the thing went out the window, and then the three ministers sang a joyous hallelujah. Clarita appeared worn out, and she slowly stretched herself on her wooden bed to sleep. Went out the window?
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's like, fuck! Jumps.
Flies away. So, just as Lester Sumrall thought that the battle was won, Clarita was suddenly thrown into another fit. He yelled, "Why have you returned?" Oh, wait, no, that's not the voice I want to use. Why?
Why have you returned?
There you go.
And in English, Clarita screamed, "She is unclean." Well, I don't know.
I don't think she would.
Can I do a demon voice? She is unclean.
There you go. Yeah.
She is unclean.
No, I couldn't understand it though.
She is unclean. We have a right to live in it. It is only you who desires us to leave.
I don't know if they can understand.
He said, "She's unclean and we have a right to live in her. It is only you who desires us to leave."
Okay. That's what Clarita said in English.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alleged, but the thing is saying it. Sumrall prayed aloud for the thing to leave, and again the thing left her body, and Clarita confirmed that the entities had jumped out the window again. So that's their door flying around in and out of windows. Scary. Sumrall sternly explained that she must resist further possession. He's like, "Stop being possessed. You're embarrassing me." And said that she must pray in the name of Jesus Christ to ward the thing off. He ordered Clarita be fed. He discovered the imposter reporters, and he was fucking pissed off and demanded the reporters to keep day 2 out of the papers. And they said, nah. And Sumrall stormed out of the prison. So while Mayor Laxon was actively attempting to protect the image of the country, his cryptic words in the press were found to be totally counterproductive. He would say, quote, "This is something that goes way back to the dim, distant past."
Okay, Mayor. I don't think that's going to help, but okay.
Literally. So around 8 p.m. at the old Bilibid prison, Clarita fell into another exhausted fit. It seemed the exorcisms were not working. This fit did not last very long, and she eventually calmed. And then once she was calm, she asked her prison guard for his pocket knife. She said that she wanted to clean and cut her fingernails.
Don't believe it, sir.
Literally.
Don't fall for it.
She's like, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like,
my nails with
and
your
then she's
knife?
like, "Can I have that knife that is in your pocket that I'm omniscient and know about?" So he was like, "No, you can't have a knife. But if you need to have this done, I'll do it for you." And she was like, "Okay, do it." So as soon as he started her manicure, Clarita began to scream in fear. Allegedly, the thing had returned again, and it was peering over the guard's shoulder menacingly. The guard felt nothing at all. He's just like doing her nails. But Clarita stood up and began screaming at the thing and lunged at it and clawed over the head of the guard. And within seconds, she collapsed to the floor and she was completely stiff, like petrified. I imagine like Harry Potter, like when they get petrified, like a plank, like that meme. Doctors and guards ran to the scene and were bewildered by the sight of Clarita's literal rigor mortis-like state. And as they carried Clarita to her bed, she hyperventilated through clenched teeth. Her jaw was completely clamped and her fists were tightly balled up. So tightly, in fact, that her knuckles were white.
I don't think she's better.
No, I don't think she's
Just
better.
saying.
So when the doctors finally pried open one of her hands, they were shocked by what they discovered. Clarita was clenching a fistful of long, black, coarse hair in her hand. Dr. Lara eagerly examined the hair in order to find the source, and in a later report, he claimed he had no answers. However, he believed it was not human hair. I mean, I don't know.
He'd have to have a reason for saying that.
So, for the first time, Clarita had fought back against her attackers.
Good for her.
This was the first time that she ever did anything to retaliate.
Yeah, like swipe back at them and shit.
Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, this bizarre hairy fit would end up being her last standoff with the thing.
So as soon as she fights back, it's gone.
Yeah.
Nice. If you enjoy our podcast, please rate, review, and consider becoming a patron by visiting patreon.com/radiograve. Your patronage and support helps us continue to make content for you. You can stay up to date with us by following our Instagram account at Radio Grave Podcast, and be sure to tell all your spooky friends about us too. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
So the next day, May 22nd, Lester Sumrall arrived at Old Bilibid prison, and he had heard when he got there, they're like, "Hey, guess what? She's been delivered." And upon his own examination, he found it to be true. Clarita seemed to be no longer possessed. Now that Clarita was no longer possessed, she was deemed well enough to face trial for her initial charges.
God damn it.
Literally. So 5 days later, she went to trial. And her defense would say that she had been through enough. Her possession in prison was punishment. Like, that was her punishment. And the judge found the defense to be, like, acceptable.
Jesus. He's like, yeah, I heard what happened to you.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about it. You're fine.
So in some ways, Clarita dodged a bullet, or at least further prosecution.
Good for her.
However, her incarceration wasn't over, because it would continue. She was ordered to be transferred to an institution called, this is so weird. It's called Welfareville.
Oh.
Yeah. She was basically transferred to Welfareville for further observation. The Manila Welfareville, this is so hard. The Manila Welfareville School was established in 1925, and it's a large, sprawling compound, kind of similar to Bilibid, but maybe not like a fucking...
Not as awful.
Yeah. And it was operated as an orphanage for less fortunate children. And it was also used as a juvenile detention center. It housed young delinquents, vagrants / homeless children, and abused children taken away from their families. And so during Clarita's stay in Welfareville, Lester Sumrall visited her twice. He believed that she was rehabilitated and described her as a perfectly normal Filipina. Sumrall petitioned her release into foster care, and his wishes were granted. Clarita was promptly released and was placed with a family of Sumrall's choice, which was the Sedora family. She made a full recovery, but she struggled to reintegrate back into society. She was bombarded by unwanted attention in the press, and her fame as the vampire girl was incredibly stressful. So she eventually left Manila in order to live a more private life. She moved away to Luzon, 200 miles north of Manila, and years later, she moved back to her birthplace of Bacolod. In Bacolod, Clarita got married and had a family, and she lived out the rest of her life in anonymity. However, while Clarita had a happily ever after, others involved did not.
Oh?
So Captain Antonio Guinibi, remember he had the crucifix in his pocket from the first episode?
Yeah.
She had cursed him. After the exorcism, after she was exorcised, he began to rapidly lose weight. And he got checked out, but there were no illnesses ever detected. And so he had to retire because he was really ill. And he died shortly after moving to the countryside. Lester Sumrall would later insinuate that Guinebe's death was, quote, a direct consequence of a demonic curse.
I mean, okay.
I think it's just so weird that like she was in his office and like, I don't want to assume anything, but it's like, if he was like taking her back to his office to like abuse her, because like she was just like a sex slave, like a child prostitute for her entire life.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be difficult for a man in power to be like, you're going to come back to my office and be with me. And she's already in a really fucked up, like desensitized
And she's
state
like,
of
yeah,
mind.
okay.
Like,
Whatever.
Yeah. Like she's used to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe he was doing that and that's why the curse was.
Well, I mean, fair.
Yeah. I mean, he's the only one that died. And he's the only one who was taking her to his private office at night.
True.
So, I don't know. I shouldn't be saying that shit, but like when I read that, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? So, anyway, Lester Sumrall was like direct consequence of a demonic curse, which is interesting. Do evangelical pastors believe in curses?
Now they do. No, I don't know.
So, on the topic of Lester Sumrall, he went on to raise his own Protestant church in Manila. And actually, it was the first Protestant church to be established in the Philippines ever.
Good for him.
And his success gave him a huge, huge head, and not where it counts.
Oh.
So, to put it bluntly, Lester Sumrall, he's just not a hero. He's not a hero in the story. We know that. He's just problematic.
Yeah, he's just a missionary colonizer weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
So he beat the story of Clarita Villanueva's exorcism like a dead horse until the day he died, preaching his sermons in the classic flamboyant style typical of a Pentecostal pastor. Totally exaggerated and sensationalized with a sprinkle of his own self-appointed glory.
But don't worry. Remember, it was for Jesus.
It was for Jesus.
It was for God, not for him. So it's fine.
Yeah. So did Lester Sumrall actually deliver Clarita? Was it real? Or did he coerce her into becoming, quote, delivered? Was it a publicity stunt that he and Clarita like worked on together? We can only speculate. So let's explore that speculation, I guess. In my own opinion, I view Lester Sumrall as an imposter. Really, truly. Like we said, a colonizer. Someone who doesn't belong there. Primarily because he was the only person who benefited from his involvement in Clarita's case. He was the only person who received any glory. Really.
No.
I know.
God did.
No, he didn't. No. He claimed that Clarita's exorcism was free publicity. He said that, quote unquote.
Oh,
he said Clarita's exorcism was free publicity.
Can't even lie about it. Okay.
No, he was like, it was perfect because it gained him widespread popularity for his hero role as an exorcist. It gave him credence, and like people saw what he did and they were like, wow, he's amazing. We should actually follow him. And he wrote several books, and he also produced documentaries about Clarita's exorcism. Therefore, it benefited him monetarily.
It's not exploitative at all.
No.
No, it's...
And as thanks for saving Clarita, the mayor actually granted building permits for his church. So he built that church. It was the first ever. But like the mayor granted him permits and waived all of his administration fees and taxes.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So his notoriety gathered a huge following, and his congregation was large and devout. So Lester Sumrall believed Clarita's case helped the spread of Pentecostal evangelism in the Philippines. He said that without Clarita, there would not be Pentecostal evangelism in the Philippines.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So the thing that needs to be recognized is that Sumrall had a poor and judgmental attitude towards Clarita. In his books, in his sermons, in his documentaries that he made, he continuously depicted Clarita in a really negative light. Sometimes hypersexualizing her, like in the documentary that he made. He like cast a sexy, light-skinned adult woman. She looks like she's white.
Really?
Yeah, like I'll show you some pictures. But, you know, he casts a sexy, light-skinned adult woman, not an 18-year-old girl. And she's well-dressed. She's super Western looking, like more of like an escort, you know. Like it's a little bit more glamorous than what Clarita was doing, which was basically being homeless.
Yeah, being a homeless child sex slave.
Yeah. And other times he insinuated that she was stupid and uneducated, especially like in his sermons. And also would kind of insinuate that she was dirty, like a dirty sinner, and that like the treatment was kind of a form of like a civilized intervention.
Okay.
So he very much leaned on like the white savior. And that also played into him sending her to a reform school and placing her in a foster home of his choice. But like with these books and these sermons and with the church and with the documentary, Clarita wasn't given any money. She was not given a single penny from any profits from her suffering, which was severe.
Yeah.
Super severe. So I ask, did Sumrall opportunistically exploit Clarita's suffering for his own benefit? My answer is yes.
Yes.
Yes. Like, do Pentecostal evangelical churches have a reputation for exploiting their congregations? Yes. That is part of their religion. That's part of their belief at this point. So, I mean, across the board, pastors like Lester Sumrall are scrutinized for blasphemous zealotry, profit from their theatrical sermons. They scam naive or just kind of like stupid believers into excessive donating. They advertise products like miracle water. Do you remember when there was those infomercials?
Yes, miracle spring water. Yep.
Yeah, which is like insane. They offer like healing touch to the sick and disabled, which like doesn't fucking work. They make you pay for it. They also like promote expensive conversion treatments, which like also does not work. Like we all know conversion camps do not fucking work.
Yeah.
So, you know, to put it simply, these charismatic attention whore preachers like to bathe in the glory of their congregation's reverence and adoration, all under the pretense of promoting salvation and glory for the Lord. It's fake. Yeah. Like they very much so believe that they're doing something for the Lord, but they're not, obviously. So for them, fame is not enough. Tax-free monetary gain is a must. Dozens of mega church preachers make fucking money.
Yes.
They make fucking money. And they live in $1 million mansions and they fly in private jets and they host festival cruises like fucking Singing at Sea, like we talked about in Happy Valley, which is it's obscene.
Yeah.
Like that's obscene.
It's gross.
So in a greater sense, New Age sects of Christianity are just widespread cults like that have just been accepted into our society.
Yeah, they're just like, they're total cults of personality.
Yeah.
Like with a God twist.
Literally. They all share the same God, but really like the real cult leader is
the evangelist. Yeah.
Who's at the pulpit. In my own opinion, I wrote a pretty strong opinion. In my own opinion, it's hard to trust Christians of any sect. Therefore, it's hard to trust Lester Sumrall at all.
No, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people could agree with that.
Yeah. We also have to consider maybe Clarita wasn't possessed. We don't know. Was it medical or was she faking it? I don't fucking know. This is the most common theory among skeptics, is that Clarita was faking her possession in the hopes for leniency in her trial. And I feel like that's really fucking dumb.
No, I agree.
Discounting Clarita's possession as a performance is impossible to do because there were over 100 credible eyewitnesses who were present during her attacks and documented her wounds. If you're going to say that she was putting on a performance or an act and was faking it for leniency, then you're basically telling all those people,
that
reporters,
they did not see what they saw.
That they did not see what they saw, including the mayor and public officials and
doctors and
reporters and also people from out of the country too. Like we said, there were spiritualists and people who were trying to help her and they couldn't, you know. So like if she wasn't faking it, were her attacks purely medical or like influenced by psychological stress? Maybe. I don't know.
Hard to say.
Because up until her arrest in 1953, Clarita had been living a fucking terrible life.
Yeah.
Like we talked about before, could this trauma resulted a psychosomatic response? Like massive freakouts triggered by stress. Maybe the bite marks and welts were triggered by stress. Maybe they were like rashes or just, something of the sort. Or maybe the wounds were actually self-harm.
Do you have any photos of the bite marks? Were there any photos of the bite marks? Because unless they're literally tooth indentations, I mean, I know that they are identified as like, oh, these are front teeth, these are molars, these are incisors. Unless they're literally those imprints, it could be a stress response.
Right.
That totally happens.
That totally happens. But on a level of severity, from a medical standpoint, it's kind of impossible to debunk her attacks or say that they're purely medical because there's virtually no other cases in history with the same magnitude.
That you know of.
That we know of. The only one is that fucking girl who was in Romania who was exorcised and delivered.
Yeah.
And resulted in stigmata. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to prove and disprove, honestly. We really can't say.
Yeah, with the number of witnesses, this case is so crazy.
It's insane. And the photos and everything. Maybe it had nothing to do with medical, psychological, or even demonic or Catholic or anything. Maybe it had nothing to do with those things. Maybe it was something different.
If Clarita wasn't being possessed, if her attacker didn't crawl up from the depths of Catholic hell, what if it was actually an entity born from the land? What if it was a creature that Filipino people knew about? An entity which obeys no god? I can think of one thing. Aswang, baby.
The Aswang.
The Aswang. So, Filipino culture is deeply influenced by a blend of indigenous tradition and Western religion, as we've talked about, where indigenous beliefs and Catholic practices are both prevalent and overlap. The country's collective attitudes towards supernatural phenomena is widely accepted, and it's a cultural norm to have respect for the unseen and the unknown. Before Spanish colonization, indigenous Filipinos practiced animism and ancestral worship. Sounds like ancestral.
Ancestral? No.
Indigenous Filipinos practiced animism and ancestral worship, a belief system that spirits inhabit natural objects. Presently, many Filipinos hold a belief in anitos and encanto, basically ancestral spirits and nature entities. They have the ability to influence daily life and well-being. In addition, there are several supernatural beings and creatures within Filipino folklore that are associated with malevolent influences. Some of these entities could be likened to Clarita's attackers, the two demon men that she called the Thing, but we have to begin with the Aswang, which are potentially the most feared entities in the Philippines. The term Aswang can be thought of as an aggregate kind of umbrella term. It's used as a name for a multitude of Filipino shape-shifting supernatural creatures. They're similar to the idea of demons in Western or Christian culture. They're inherently evil by nature and older than time. They're nocturnal shapeshifters, usually in the form of women and beasts. They feed on human flesh and blood, but they prefer the taste of pregnant women and children. No one and nothing is excluded from their diet. Their sinister behavior is considered to be an inversion of traditional Filipino values. Today, superstitious belief in the Aswang is still widely accepted, especially among older generations.
Do you know if, I doubt your grandparents ever talked about anything like this?
Nope. They didn't talk to us about much of anything. I mean, they talked about, stuff, but they didn't talk about the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
So, and they only talked about Catholic shit.
I remember you telling
American
me,
life.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that they were very proud Americans.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were super Americanized. They kept a lot of culture, but I think they kept belief back in the Philippines. There are 5 main categories of Aswang. Vampires, Oh, you gonna make sound effects for them? Okay. Those are vampires, viscera suckers, werebeasts, witches, and ghouls. Love ghouls.
Is that good? Do you like that? Okay, did I do a good job? Okay.
You did.
Okay, thank you.
They were good sounds. So first we're going to talk about the vampire Aswang. The vampire version is usually disguised as a beautiful woman. She infiltrates a community by seducing or marrying a man, and she does this as an imposter. She's able to hide in plain sight because she just looks like a beautiful woman. And at midnight, she hunts. She drains her husband of blood first, and she sucks blood through a proboscis-like tongue, like a little, long fucking...
Proboscis.
Like a mosquito, like a little straw.
Yeah.
Organic straw. Once the husband is killed, she moves on to other men, other victims, and a vampire Aswang can wipe out entire villages. Sometimes they don't kill the village that they've infiltrated, but they might use the village as a hideout and travel to nearby communities to feed instead. So they have like a home base, and then they just annihilate everyone else around. But no one suspects her because it's just a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Relatable.
Unusually beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
She just appears. They're like, oh my God.
She's so pretty.
She's a black widow, a black mosquito. Like that.
Most Aswang in human disguise can be detected by looking into their eyes. So if you look in their eyes and your reflection is upside down, it's an Aswang.
Fucking, could you imagine like...
That'd be freaky as fuck.
Could you imagine making love to your beautiful wife who appeared...
I can't imagine it, no.
Out of a lake. She just walked out of the lake.
Now I can imagine it. Yep.
Yeah, with like long black hair. She's beautiful. And you were making love to your wife and you look in her eyes and...
And everything's upside down. I go, ah!
That's like creepy.
And then I bust. Oh, that is creepy though, yeah.
Then you bust and then you have like...
And then I'm scared.
The post-nut clarity is post-nut fear. You're like, I gotta come first. Okay, I'm waiting. I gotta wait to be scared.
I'll be scared in a second. So that's how you can tell. But there are special oils that can also deter the vampire Aswang. And this is created by following a strict ritual recipe. So what you do, my mom told me this, you know? My mom taught me this when she was teaching me to make adobo, dude.
Oh my God.
She's like, oh yeah, here's the fucking vampire Aswang oil also.
You're like looking through like your grandma's old recipes, like...
What's this one, Grandma?
You're like, oh, pulling stuff out. You're like, oh yes, the sausage and the egg and the adobo and the rice, how to cook rice.
Oil.
And then at the end of it is like this huge, like it's an index card that's like filled like with the tiniest writing ever, and it's all in Tagalog. And it's like it has like pictures
and little symbols
and symbols and your and that's
blood dripped on it.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And it's double-sided.
Put it down. Grandma, what is that? Nothing. I can't even read. I'm like, what the fuck, Grandma? Anyway, so here's how you make the oil. So grow a special coconut of your choice.
Yeah.
So you need to choose a coconut to grow. And you grow it. And then you pick the coconut during twilight under a full moon. And the weather has to be wet, chilly, and gloomy. These are like really specific conditions. So like, but it's to get rid of a fucking monster. So it kind of...
Yeah.
So...
A monster that's old as time.
Yeah.
And from the earth.
So it's like fair.
Yeah.
So with that weather, and then you grate and squeeze the coconut into juice. Toss the coconut waste into the ocean in order to cover your traces. Boil the juice until it's oil. Recite secret prayers over the oil. Can't tell you what they are, obviously. No. Hang the oil in a container on your door. And then, if a vampire Aswang is near, the oil will boil on its own.
So then I guess it's like a detection.
Yeah, it's less a deterrent and more just a detection, because then you can at least run away.
I thought it was interesting that it was like, yeah, go throw the coconut into the ocean, and it mentioned in the recipe that if you don't do that,
it'll come.
They'll know that it's you. Yeah. Because the thing is that like they know that the oil exists, but they don't know who made it. But whoever made it is like fucking dead.
Yeah.
They're like,
oh, you made that shit?
Who the fuck made that?
Who's trying to keep me out?
Who's trying to keep me out? Literally. Who's trying to expose me? You're fucking dead. And they come after
beautiful.
You. Literally.
And then other than the oil, you can reverse a ladder that leads into a house. So like you have your house and you have a ladder going into your house. So if you reverse the ladder, that can deter an Aswang because they can't cross it or climb it.
Right. And from my understanding, from what I have seen and read, it's suggested that most Filipino like homes, like not necessarily like modern homes in the city or like apartments, but like older homes are kind of like homes that you see in the South where they're built on pillars and underneath the house is like open. Like, probably for flooding. That's like the whole point. It's for rain. So your house doesn't flood. So you might have a ladder that leads up into your front door.
Like a Western, I guess, house would have like front steps.
Yeah.
Instead of that, there would just be like a little mini ladder stepping up.
Yeah.
So that's all you have to do for the vampire. But that's not all the Oswangs.
Yeah.
There's a bunch more.
Yeah.
That's only the first one. Next is the Viscera Sucker.
By
Oswang.
Sarah. No, I'm kidding.
Michael Sarah?
Michael Sarah?
And this is known as, I'm very American tongue, Mananangal. Mananangal.
It's hard one to say.
Yes. That is long as fuck. It usually takes the form of a beautiful woman. Imagine that. Specifically, though, a light-skinned, unusually attractive woman with very long hair. So at midnight, she grows wings and her body becomes segments, like it detaches. The top and the bottom detach. The lower half is left behind, and the torso flies away into the night.
Which is like fucked.
Friday night, baby.
Yeah.
And it feeds on internal organs and phlegmatic discharge of the sick.
So gross.
Eat some snot.
When I think about it, it's so fucking nasty.
That's a monster for you. But they are particularly attracted to fetuses and newborns. So you get that snot.
Oh my God.
As well as women in labor. So all that schmutz, all that fucking nasty shit from labor, they're that's good shit.
They love it.
But the viscera suckers are believed to cause miscarriages and death by childbirth. A lot of Westerners who don't know a lot about Oswang, they're like, oh, Oswangs is those things where like they come in the window and they have like a long tongue and they like suck the baby out with tummy like that. I think they're thinking of this.
Yeah.
Spanish texts from 1589 mention viscera-sucking Aswang, which the Spanish documentarians compare to the devil. Quote, according to indigenous Filipinos, the Manananggal's purpose was to show himself at night to many persons without his head or entrails, just as the devil walked about and carried his head to different places. And in the morning, they returned to their body, remaining as before alive. The same text mentions another viscera sucker, the Siligan, and also includes a warning to the Spanish. Quote, if the Siligan saw anyone clothed in white, he'd tear out his liver and eat it, thus causing his death. Let no one, moreover, consider this a fable. It is known that they tore out the intestines and organs through the anus of a Spanish notary in Calavan, who was documented to be buried in Calilaya by Father Fray Juan de Merida. So they're like,
That's from
1589.
Fucking 1589.
They're like, this isn't a joke, by the way. They'll pull your organs out through your butt.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay.
It only does it to people who wear white.
Dude, same. Why do you think I wear black? Duh.
Literally. Because I don't want this to happen.
It's the culture.
Through my anus?
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, I'm just imagining some Spanish fucking fat ass fucking piece of shit from Spain, like showing up on a boat and just like gets fucking ripped out by like a demon flying through the air with no bottom half of its body.
I wonder if I'm being oppressed by a Siligon because
your anus problems.
My innards have come out my anus before. You know.
You went to the doctor for that though.
I did.
We fixed that a long time ago.
Yeah, we did fix that a long time ago.
Do you remember Christina, your cyst, your neck cyst?
Yeah.
I miss her.
That was different, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're like, yeah, this bitch is real. Just don't wear white.
They're like, go see the grave.
So the Manananggal are deeply attracted to a woman's laborious screaming and crying during childbirth because they're like, oh, I hear that shit. That's dinner, baby.
Literally.
And they fly on over, just their torso, ready to slurp. So husbands are responsible for defending their laboring wives. Spikes would be constructed around and under the house, and husbands would stand watch, stripped totally naked. Because that is scary. And they would furiously wave swords in the air to deter this Aswang from getting near.
They're like, yeah, like, which I fucking love this.
Yeah.
You know, those like guys who they Like a guy wants to fight another guy at the bar. And so one of the guys starts taking off his pants and his clothes and shit to fight. And the guy's like, what are you doing? And then like doesn't want to fight. And he's like, fight me. And he's like taking off his panties
He's like
and shit.
naked. Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically
that.
what's happening.
Yeah. It's like, get me a swung.
And also
And
I
it's
feel like it's a symbol of like, I'm not afraid of you. Like
yeah, it's total like bare, like I'm gonna fucking kill you. No clothes.
Yeah. Like I'm not afraid of you. Like I don't even have to wear clothing or armor or anything.
Yeah.
Like you can't hurt me. I'm impenetrable.
Wink. So yeah, they loved they like to hear the cries so they can go find some dinner. But sick people were also advised to recover under special circumstances. So they were told to reside within houses that had no holes or windows. And told,
sounds healthy.
Yeah, right.
In the dark.
No airflow.
No.
But they're told not to groan in order to not lure the aswang. They're like, don't make sounds like you're fucking in childbirth, dude. Like, don't make sick groaning noises because it's gonna come.
They're
not like that. Maybe like that. But no, they're like, you don't feel good. Don't fucking make a noise.
yeah.
Because if you, they're gonna be like, you in labor? No, I'm a 46-year-old man. The fuck.
I have pneumonia.
Yeah. Sorry. So that's the viscera suckers. And then there's the werebeast, aswang. So this form is human by day and animal by night.
Like a werewolf.
Yeah, like a werewolf.
Yeah.
As a human, they will look like a transient laborer or merchant. So just like a lower class, kind of a working class dude. As a beast, they're dogs. And dogs and wolves are not like indigenous to the Philippines.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like be like seeing a wild parrot here.
Right.
In the West Coast. Be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But they also take the form of pigs and cats and so on. So they have a diet of pregnant women's human flesh.
Love it.
People can be infected and turned into the werebeast type. So it is like a werewolf. But it's by eating food that was spit on or licked by the werebeast.
So fucking like.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're just running around fucking drooling. Fucking nasty ass dog creature.
Yeah.
Slobbering all over your fucking vegetables and shit.
Like selling vegetables and shit, like as a merchant, but he was like all night long all over like all the cabbage and shit.
Yeah.
It's actually fucking gross to think about.
It is. But how you can tell that a creature is an aswang? No tail. So if it's a dog or a cat or a pig and it doesn't have a tail, it's probably an aswang.
Oh, these like poor animals that just like got their like tails like
chopped
off on accident are just like that. It's a fucking aswang and just gets fucking killed like just for being different.
Just for being different. Just for being unique. So women with long hair are able to deter the werebeast. Hair that is worn up is considered an invitation to be attacked. And there are magic prayers that you can use to stun this kind of aswang. While it's vulnerable, though, it has to be dismembered. So if you cut it into two pieces, each piece must be like separated, specifically taken to opposite riverbanks.
I'm like mouth agape, and I wrote this.
I know.
And I forgot how like
you gotta separate that shit. Put
See,
this piece there and this piece there because they're gonna go back together.
This is why the Filipinos are considered to be the hottest, strongest, most attractive men in Southeast Asia, all of the world, because they are fucking metal as fuck.
Yeah.
They're beasts. They're like, I'm gonna fucking dismember.
I'm gonna cut this in half.
Literally. They're like, I just know how to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. I'm naked. Fearless.
I don't know. It seems kind of based on all the other kind of aswangs. It makes sense.
That it has to be.
Seems kind of instinctive to separate it and then move the pieces in different areas so they don't go back together.
Specifically in riverbanks.
A lot of cultures see water as like a evil deterrent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's completely accurate.
Okay, we're almost there. We got the witch aswang, and that is also known as a mangukukulam. Don't know if I put the right emphasis on the right syllables there, but it's a practitioner of dark magic.
That's like what?
Oh.
Does it sound like a witch? Okay.
Yes-ish. So the witch ones, the mankukulam, It's avoided and hated in traditional culture. They are in the form of a human with cat-like eyes. So like when you think of like cat eye,
Yeah.
for like a human, it's like elongated.
Yeah, like
eyes.
the iris.
Yeah. They live in isolated jungles and hide within rice or bones or insects.
You're like walking by like a beetle and it's like,
That's a witch, dog.
it's a witch.
Yeah. They place curses on people who have crossed their path while they were in those forms.
Oh, fuck.
So you just saw that beetle, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Don't walk over there. There is one particularly scary witch called Penangalan, a witch who meditates in a bath of vinegar with only her head exposed, and her body wastes away, which leaves only her head. She floats around as a disembodied head with dangling entrails, and exposure to her entrails will make you develop painful weeping sores.
That's interesting and familiar.
Wow, dude.
No, I mean about Clarita's.
Oh, I thought you meant me. I was like, yeah, I know I
No.
got skin problems.
Oh my God, no, I would never. Oh my God.
Just because I'm Filipino? God.
Oh.
The smell of vinegar means that she is near. She is attracted to menstrual blood and birthing fluids. So all that,
Which is so gross.
yeah, the,
Periods are fucking gross.
yeah.
Women are gross.
But I think like childbirth fucking gruel is worse.
Oh, don't say gruel.
It's gruel. It's mush, dude.
Also, I don't mean that. Periods aren't gross and women aren't gross, but gruel.
Human bodies are gross. The fuck?
Period gruel is gross.
I think childbirth gruel is grosser. More grosser.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Blood is-
Sorry, not period gruel. I meant childbirth gruel.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sludge.
Let's move on.
If your blood is consumed by a penangalan, you contract a fatal wasting disease.
Like irritable bowel syndrome. Like
Wow, dude. Just gonna name off everything I have.
No.
Endometriosis, like OCD.
Nicotine addiction, alcoholism.
Also acne.
No,
But
you
we
don't
don't
have
know
any
why.
acne. You look great.
My nose has acne today.
You're gorge.
Thank you.
You're engorged.
Thank you. I'm engorged because I'm a witch.
Mm.
I'm an Aswang. Not all witches are Aswang.
True.
By the way, witches can choose the path of the Aswang, but only if they follow Aswang characteristics, which probably is like just eating flesh or being attracted to certain types of human,
Like flesh,
like
I guess.
biological shit. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like I don't really know what else makes an Aswang other than it eats.
Well, I guess they're like physical abilities.
It's kind of
It could also be a thing of like with the head one, you know, like if you were to just go in a bath of vinegar and let your shit dissolve,
yeah,
then you would be a witch turning into an Aswang.
yeah.
But
It's kind of similar to like skinwalkers. I kind of hate skinwalker as like a term because I think it's been sort of hijacked into being like a blanket term for anything that's creepy.
yeah,
And that's like not what it is. It's a very specific indigenous witch doctor that has eaten someone and became a skinwalker,
Yeah.
taking, and it's specific, Southwestern tribes and stuff like that. So it kind of reminds me of that sort of thing. I don't want to say skinwalker anymore. I want to say something else. Dermal stroller.
there you go.
Derma stroller. So from here on out, I'll never say skinwalker ever again. I'll just say derma. Yeah, I'll say derma stroller.
But yeah, so not all witches are Aswang, but witches in general, if they were caught, would just get killed like back in the day, because you don't know if they are an Aswang.
Right.
It's like, oh, might as well kill this witch because could be. Witch Aswang could be killed in a specific way, and this was only using a bolo knife.
Like it's just fucking like hard as fuck.
Dude, have you seen like traditional like Filipino weapons?
No,
They're dope.
they're crazy. I love it.
But she has to be stabbed in the middle back. Other areas that get injured can be easily healed, but the witch cannot, quote unquote, lick her wound on her back. Once the witch is slain, the bolo knife has to be buried. Also, keeping scissors under your pillow deters the penangalan.
Love that. They're like, I hate to sew.
Oh, I don't want to sew anything.
I hate arts and crafts.
Scissors under your linens. No.
No.
Not all witches are bad.
True.
That is a note that you have inserted here, and I think that is an important distinction.
No. Yeah.
Over the last 200 years, they've been accepted into Filipino culture. The ability to be a witch in Filipino culture, the ability is passed down genetically, but people are still wary of witches. I think it's kind of similar to like an American culture.
Yeah.
Where it's like, people will be like, I'm a witch, and then people are like, okay, but okay.
Right. It's
I'll
like,
got my eye on you, witch.
well, are you a bad witch or a good witch?
Right. So it's, yeah, you can't be sure if they do dark magic or white magic or whatever, but like Clarita's mother, they're still around.
Right. Because I feel like that's basically what Clarita's mother was.
Yeah, just a witch. So now we get to ghoul aswang. Ghouls. I love ghouls.
Banging on the table.
Yeah.
No, the ghoul aswang is like, I think also very popular.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when you look up aswangs, it's like, I see this a lot.
Yeah, it's
too.
like, oh, it's a ghoul. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the form of a grotesque humanoid beast thing.
Yeah.
During the day, it's invisible and it fears the light, which like relatable.
Mm-hmm.
But at night, they can be seen in their physical form, and they're known as carrion eaters, like scavengers, like vultures. They feast off freshly dead and buried people. They dig with sharp teeth and claws, and their diet causes them to smell rank and pungent and nasty.
You smell nasty.
Yeah, I mean, they smell like dead shit.
Yeah.
They live in quiet areas because they don't like loud noises, and they generally reside in the forest or like cemeteries and burial grounds.
Makes sense.
I think if I was to be an aswang, it would be this.
A ghoul aswang.
100%.
Yeah, I think so too.
Ghouls. So because they hate loud noises and bright lights, funerals should be made loud and brightly lit. Celebratory parties to keep these ghouls away from taking your fucking flesh. They eat your corpse.
Yeah, eating your dead grandma, grandpa, or whoever is dead, whoever died, and
My grandma got cremated.
that's good.
So it's fine.
Okay, that's
They
good.
can't eat her.
Okay,
And it was in Colorado, where I
Maybe-
don't think there are many aswang.
maybe the aswang took the cremate. Okay, I don't want to say
Took the remains of my grandma?
yeah, and then like put them in some
And, like,
ink
railed
and
them?
and like got a tattoo with them, which I think is like the weirdest shit that people do.
Yeah, that is weird.
I'm like, chill out, bro.
Because it doesn't like dissolve into the ink. It like, I don't want to say seasons it. There's like a better word for that.
it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
But
if you've done that, I mean, totally fine. But like,
I don't think it's gross. I just don't think it is like an effective way of integrating someone into you forever.
yeah.
Like, it'd be more effective to fucking eat somebody's ashes, to be real.
Like that lady from My Strange Addiction.
Yes, who could not stop eating her husband's ashes.
So
Good shit.
Makes me
dude.
want to throw up.
Good shit.
Oh my God.
I love that episode. And then
The dick was too good. She like had to
Oh,
like,
dude.
she like couldn't let him go.
my favorite part is when they're like, you need to stop eating the ashes. And she's like, no. And she goes in the bathroom with the urn. And they're like, what are you doing? She's like, nothing.
Literally.
Like, eating them
Because she
all.
like puts her finger in and she's like,
Yeah. Well, and because
Like-
like when the episode aired, she was like almost out of ashes because she had eaten them all. Like, that's so fucking wild.
throw up.
I get it
dude.
though. I mean, that's some psychological shit. But like,
Makes me
oh.
want to vomit. I'm like,
So you
gagging.
wouldn't? Would you rather eat ashes or have ashes in tattooing?
Tattooing.
Oh,
I would
really?
never eat ashes. I would never eat ashes.
I would eat ashes, maybe.
You're ill.
Yeah, but the tattoo thing just doesn't seem useful.
What is eating useful for?
Then you'd be literally eating a person.
Can you move on? Can
Okay.
you?
Yep. Anyway, so deterrents can also be left on a loved one's grave in order to protect the corpses from being eaten. These include holy objects, spices, salt, ash, vinegar, stingray tails, large crustaceans. You put a big ass crab on there, and piss. You can also
Piss on
piss
your
on it.
piss on your
Because-
loved one's grave.
Yeah, but I mean, no one wants to eat a piss corpse. Come on. No, quote me on it. No one
Nobody-
wants to eat a piss corpse.
You heard it here, folks, from Radio
I'm gonna make a
Graves.
sticker of that, I think.
Radio Grave podcast, Dom says nobody wants to eat a piss corpse.
Ancient Filipino proverb.
Everybody wants to eat their husband's ashes. You pissing on us? You pissing on our fucking grave?
It's not a problem.
Also, I feel like this is an insanely good example of like the Spanish Catholic blending with indigenous cultural beliefs. Holy objects and like salt and ash and stuff like that alongside like urine and stingray tails and crustaceans on a grave, where it's like, we're going to do both because both will protect my loved one in the afterlife and physically. So
PP is a great deterrent for a great many things. Let's bring it together here. Is it possible that Clarita was being stalked by some kind of aswang in a strange form?
Maybe. Possibly.
It's not impossible.
Yeah.
To me. But there are two other Filipino creature entity things worth mentioning here, as their traditional descriptions are too similar to Clarita's demons to ignore. The first one we're going to talk about is the Capri, I believe it's pronounced. It's a being who suspiciously sounds very similar to our friend Sasquatch, who you'll hear a lot about next month.
Whoa, don't give it away.
Should I not give it away? Should I reverse?
No, it's okay. I'll bleep it.
There's going to be a Bigfoot later. Anyway, the Capri is a large tree-dwelling being. It's described as a tall, dark-skinned man with a hairy body.
Whoa.
Where have we seen that? They have a distinct, powerful odor, and they like to smoke cigars.
Love.
Okay, Grandpa. They often wear a belt that gives them the ability to be invisible to humans. It's like a magic object.
Literally.
Belt. They may make contact with a human, especially an attractive human woman, which Clarita was a young, attractive woman. They will stalk their love interest throughout the human's life. Sometimes the embers of a Capri cigar can be mistaken for fireflies. Loud laughter, plumes of smoke from a tree, and red glaring eyes are all signs of Capri.
Could you imagine?
Oh, dude, yeah.
It's like,
you're like in the forest and you hear laughing and then like a plume of smoke and the fuck?
You smell smegma, because that's what...
What?
Well, that's what they say Sasquatch smells like. Like dirty human.
That's sick. Well, this isn't a Sasquatch. This one smells like cigars because it's classy.
Oh my gosh.
Staring you down.
Okay, it's okay.
Anyway, in some versions of Capri folklore, they're said to carry small white magical stones.
Yeah.
And if you obtain this magical stone, he will grant you wishes. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
While Capri aren't necessarily malevolent, they are vengeful. So cutting down their trees, because they live in trees, cutting down their trees will throw them into fits of rage. Very fair. Is it possible that the large, hairy demon man that Clarita was being attacked by was a Capri? And maybe it was in love with Clarita. We can revisit that, but...
We will revisit it.
Okay. So what about the small, angelic-faced creature with the big mustache that was part of the thing?
I love that.
When I think about it, I think of the Lorax. Not that Loraxes are angelic-faced, but you know what I mean. So we move on to the Tiyanak, which is also known as the Patiyanak. It's a small, babyish, vampiric creature, not unlike a Lorax, with a deceptive and predatory nature. They like to feast on human flesh and blood and fetuses like Aswang. The Tiyanak takes on multiple different forms, though. Usually they're a baby in distress. You know, they're little... What?
Nothing. It's just creepy.
It's a baby. Don't be scared. It's just a baby.
Not a baby.
They lure victims with their crying into the forest or onto the road, and they single out solo travelers or those who are lost. They're especially attracted to pregnant women and children. Once the baby is picked up, it changes its form into a monster, and they attack the victim with large claws and sharp teeth. Sometimes these Tiyanak burst from their baby form into a large black bird and fly away. So they might not be a monster that's just going to rip you apart. They could be a big, scary black bird that flies away.
I also feel like I read something from like old Spanish, like texts that the indigenous Filipinos mention a creature that
Turns into a bird.
like you'll see it and then it bursts into a black bird.
Whoa.
Which is very cool. I'm very into celestial birds this season.
You sure are.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Other forms include a dwarf-like being. It's described as a tiny old man with wrinkly skin, long facial hair, a flat nose, and beady eyes. And it has one leg that's much longer than the other. This makes moving a struggle for them, and that's why it uses a baby cry to draw in prey.
It's like,
Gotcha, bitch!
gotcha, bitch.
With its one long leg, it pulls you in.
So gross.
A similar form of the Tianak comes from central Luzon. It describes them as small people who levitate. They have large noses, wide mouths, and large eyes. They might have a large mustache. They also cry to lure victims, and attracted to cries of women in labor and deterred by armed naked husbands. So
Love that.
More parallel.
Yeah.
Origins of the Tianaks varies depending on the region, and it's morphed over many centuries. Commonly, they're the spirits of lost children. The spirit of a child whose mother died before giving birth, causing the baby to be, quote, born in the ground. They dig to the surface and become a wandering aswang.
I feel like that's great. Like folklore.
Yeah, no, totally.
Like that's so fucking creepy.
Yeah. When the Spaniards conquered the Philippines, the legend morphed to fit into Catholicism. So the Tianak became the spirits of unbaptized babies.
Right.
Some legends say they're spirits of normal babies without a name, lost or abandoned in the woods to die. They float throughout the forest crying for help, looking for someone to give them a name. And with a name, they can cross over into the afterlife. And offering a white candle as a guide helps them as well.
That's kind of different than their blood-sucking, scary form. They're more like a...
Just like a lost soul kind of thing.
Yeah.
In modern times, the Tianak are said to be the spirits of aborted fetuses seeking revenge on their parents.
Scary.
I mean, Filipinos are
Yeah.
it's generally so conservative that, like, yeah, that they would say that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know.
They are. I mean,
You can say that.
I can say that. Yeah. All the Filipinos I know are super fucking conservative. But purely conjecture.
Yeah, for sure.
Purely conjecture, what if the small creature was a Tianak? Right? Clarita was forced into child prostitution when she was 12. Within the 6 years she was working on the streets, she could have become pregnant, possibly many times. These pregnancies could have resulted in miscarriages or even abortions.
True.
While there's no direct evidence that these creatures were involved in Clarita's case, the same can be said in regard to the presence of Christian demons. So,
Right. It's all up for debate. All of it. Who's to say that it's not these
all of
beings?
them.
All of them. All at once. Well, you know what? We'll come back to it.
So, in the end, Clarita Villanueva's life was marked by significant hardship, and she is likely no longer living today, so we can't ask her what really happened within the walls of Old Bilibid prison. Was it a genuine case of possession by demons from hell? Maybe it was a rare psychological or medical event? Could it have been a publicity stunt which resulted in mass hysteria? Or was it possibly a series of supernatural attacks carried out by hostile Filipino spirits and entities? We'll never know. Her case will remain unsolved in terms of definitive explanations. However, the complexities of Clarita Villanueva's case serve as a compelling example of how religion and culture can shift the perspective lens of belief in bizarre paranormal phenomena, as well as fuel our enduring fascination with unexplained supernatural events that occur all around the world. What do you think? Tell me what you think about this case. Was it a Christian demon?
I think it's more likely that she was being stalked by like a traditional Filipino entity, not a Christian demon.
Super quick note. I don't know if it's been like addressed explicitly by paranormal researchers or anything, but I think often whatever culture you are most aligned with or whatever your belief is, something is more likely to manifest as that.
Right.
Whether by perception or in reality.
Right.
But it's like, did you ever watch fucking Exorcist Believer?
No.
In the end, they get all, like, they're doing an exorcism on these two girls for this Christian demon. Or actually, it's a Mesopotamian demon, so I don't know the fuck. Anyway, but they have, like, a shaman and, like...
Oh, all kinds of different, like...
all different religions. And I'm like, whatever you're doing is not going to do anything to this thing.
Right.
It needs to be within this thing's rules. Like, I don't know. That just it gives a little... My theory gives more credence to...
Right.
Your thing of like, yeah, this is the thing that they're going to believe in, or that will be more culturally prevalent.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But
well, and I have like a theory too. Okay. So first of all, I think that people who experience a lot of trauma and have like an overflow of energy, emotional energy, tend to be more susceptible to oppression or be susceptible to attracting entities, honestly. Like they really do, because that's like a feeding kind of thing. I think that's like believed.
I would say that's like
cultures.
Yeah. That's a widespread.
Yeah. So I think that maybe the overflow of psychic energy produced by Clarita's stress and trauma made her susceptible to spiritual oppression, right? But maybe she like did have an abortion or a miscarriage in the recent past, and that's why she was burdened with a Tianak attachment.
Yeah.
You know, an angelic face and with a, you know, and then it's like, oh, it's a wrinkly man with a mustache, like in some different forms. Like, why would it kind of just fits, honestly, to me.
Who's the tall guy then? Who's the hairy guy?
Well, I think that maybe like when you really think about the stones that occurred in her cell from through the bars, like in the dark, or like from the ceiling or wherever, what if that were the stones of the Capri?
Oh.
Like maybe he was like desperately in love with her and was like throwing her stones.
So she can make wishes and shit?
Yeah. Like so she could make wishes, and maybe like, I don't know. Maybe she was like, maybe her like being scared was like a form of rejection. I don't know.
Got super fucking mad. Yeah.
Right. And then also it's like, could that have maybe not been the Capri, but maybe could it have been psychokinetic poltergeist activity? You know, objects falling from the ceiling, appearing out of thin air, apports, as they're called. That can be caused by stress too. Now, Lester Sumrall, this fucking bitch, bitch ass cracker, he jumped on the opportunity to save Clarita. I'm convinced of that. Like, all in the name of Jesus Christ and publicity. Like, but the attacks did not cease with Lester Sumrall. Like, they ended when he wasn't even there. Like, they ended when Clarita defended herself against the thing on her own. Mm-hmm. When she attacked it, it never came back.
Right.
Like, we know that it is said that some holy objects can ward off aswangs, but I think that Sumrall's exorcism did not work, mostly because Sumrall was a weak cracker-ass missionary who was pretending to be an exorcist.
1000%.
He's not Filipino.
He is a bitch, though.
How can he exorcise a older than fucking time entity from the earth, indigenous to the Philippines, with evangelical prayers?
It's because he has God on his side, and also he's white. So
God doesn't exist.
I think you'll find that. So there's that.
Okay. Well, I think that Clarita saved herself, and I think that he just took credit for it. That's what makes sense.
How do you think she saved herself? Like,
well, I think personally, I think it's because maybe Clarita was a witch, because her mother was deeply spiritual and connected to the other side. And as it is believed in Filipino culture, I guess it's witchhood. I don't know how else to say it, but I guess being spiritually connected is hereditary.
Right.
So why, if her mother was conducting seances and all kinds of shit, like, why would she not have inherited that, especially being the only girl in her family?
Yeah, true.
You know, so I would think that maybe she was deeply like connected to the other side, which is what attracted maybe the Capri or maybe an Aswang or maybe the Tianak. So I think that she had the power to fight back against the thing and nobody else did. Because she had the hair in her hand, maybe she was like crossing like that spiritual barrier like into the other side because she was connected. She was able to rip like the hair from the hairy evil attacker and he like never returned.
Yeah.
So if Clarita maybe had not saved herself that day, like from the thing, could she have died? And I think very possibly. I think she could have either died from like the stress or maybe the supernatural attacks, or maybe she could have died through Lester Sumrall's exorcisms.
Yeah, there was
Because
continued exorcism. Yeah.
He was so pissed off on that second day that he was beating her in the face.
Yeah, he's like slapping her around because she passed out. Like, what?
Yeah. So.
But that is very Christian exorcism of him. So.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, she, if not died, she would have been in a horrible state.
Yeah.
Forever. I mean, she seemed pretty certain that it was going to kill her.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like.
I feel like she was genuinely afraid.
Totally. Yeah. Regardless of what it was, she was like suffering.
Yeah.
100%.
I don't think he coerced her either.
Oh, I don't either.
I don't think he walked in there and was like, hey, I know you're faking it, but like if you like stop faking it, like
we'll be famous.
You'll be famous. And it's like she's just like crying and screaming.
Yeah.
Covered in boils and like writhing and in prison, sleeping on a wood plank. Like, I don't know. Like she doesn't want to be there.
No.
So, I mean, I just feel like that's so stupid to act like she was being coerced.
By some pastor guy. Some fucking white Pentecostal fucking weirdo.
Yeah. Who's like promising her nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's.
Yeah, promising her nothing. He's like, oh, if you do this, I'll do nothing for you. And she's like, hell yeah. I'm so poor and like my life is terrible.
Literally.
Let's go. No.
It's disgusting.
Play along with me and I'll profit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
And he, like I said, he was the only person who profited from this.
Yeah. Or benefited in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe God does exist and he only touches those people. Because I've had some really bad luck and maybe it's because I've been rejecting Christ.
I don't think that's how it's supposed to work, but you might be right.
Okay. Well, for sure.
I think the Bible says that it's supposed to be everybody, but like,
the
I don't know. Holly Bible?
Holly Bible?
See.
See? Well, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Because I want to think it was something medical, but like, how do you have that many witnesses? Like, what?
Right. And nothing to compare it to except for the Romanian girl who literally was exercised and got better.
Stigmata, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one of those things like where it's so explicitly like, this is what happened. This is the proof. All these people saw. This is just what happened. There has to be something else, right? Right? Where is it?
Right.
Like, where's the fake part? That's what my brain is doing.
Right. And the
But
only
there
thing
just
that's
isn't.
like fake is like maybe Lester.
Yeah, Lester's a cunt, but like,
Yeah.
that's it. I don't know what it would be. I don't know that it's an Aswang or like a Catholic Christian evil.
Right.
I don't know what it is. Could be some other secret third thing, but
Right. The hair is
something.
scary. Like
Totally.
that's the thing that I keep going back on. It's like it sounds so like phenomenal and like unreal that I'm like, okay, but then there's 100 people who've seen it. There are people in the room and you know, like 5 people had to carry her while she was like in rigor mortis, like hyperventilating, and she has fucking hair in her hands that isn't her own hair. It's like curly, dark colored hair.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did that come from? And then she's fine. Then she's better.
Yeah.
And it never comes back. And you know what? Actually, it kind of makes sense because we're like, oh yeah, like the Aswang is deterred by like holy objects sometimes. When we do think about it, it was jumping out the window when Lester was there doing this thing, but it would just come back. It was like, ugh, you're just annoying me. Like, I gotta go. Like, you're annoying. I'll come back later.
That is being deterred. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a deterrent where it's like, oh my God, stop.
But it's not an extermination.
No. There's deterrent and then there's methods of killing. And obviously that didn't work.
I think that she totally was spiritually connected to the other side. I think that she was a witch. And I think that she was capable of saving herself because as soon as she did, she prevailed. So
Yeah.
she could have maybe had things happen to her later in life, but we don't know that. So
Why can't I be a Filipino witch?
you can be.
Why do I just have to be a half fucking white Filipino?
I don't know how to answer that.
I bet you the blood magic goes away when it's diluted by caucasity.
I mean, honestly, like, I think that's accurate.
That might be true.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
My mom could be a witch and I wouldn't even know.
You should ask her.
I'd be like, Mom, are you like a sorceress by chance? She's like, yeah, why? And I'm like, oh, I'm just not. She's like, what?
Yeah.
It's probably
She's like,
your fucking dad.
Haven't gotten your letter to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry? I'm a Ravenclaw, obviously, because we're Asian.
Oh my God. My mom would pull up on that shit. Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
I don't know if she's read those books, but
It's okay.
I could see her doing it. She likes Disney. That's it. That's Clarita.
That's Clarita Villanueva.
What do you think?
Yeah, what do you think,
You should-
listener?
You should either comment on our Instagram post for this episode with what you think it is, or you can send us an email, radiograpepodcast@gmail.com,
Yeah,
because we like to hear your thoughts. We like your theories. That's all this is about. So
literally. And also, like, if you've gotten to the end of this episode, which I hope you have, I have a little memo. We are looking for submission stories
Oh yeah,
for this season. So if you have ever had anything strange happen to you, if you've been abducted by aliens,
or humans, I guess, if you want to talk about that.
if you've been invaded by demons or Filipino creatures, if you've been
Other than me.
if you've been abducted by aliens or seen one outside of your home, if you have seen a UFO, if you've seen a ghost, if you have seen an animal and it's talked to you,
If you saw Chupacabra or something similar.
if you've seen a doppelganger, a doppelgary,
Ooh.
if you've ever been visited by a man in black, if you're a psychic vampire,
Oh, I definitely want to hear that.
we want to hear it all. Just email us at radiograpepodcast@gmail.com. You can submit your story via recording, or you can just write it out and we'll read it for you in an accent of our choice.
You can send a suggested accent, but it's not guaranteed.
The only one I can do is like Southern, a little bit.
Can you do a British accent? I'm not saying to do it now, but can you do it?
I could do it right now. Do you want me to do it right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy.
Okay.
And the game is like extreme whiplash because it's like magical world of Harry Potter. It's super Mary Sue, but then there is like combat that suddenly like happens, and I'm distracted by so much. I forget how to do combat. So it's like, oh, I've got to go to Hogsmeade to get my potions list of ingredients to make my potion, get my wand, and I need to do it.
Dude, that's why so many of those students died in the 8th book, dude. They just couldn't focus.
They literally couldn't focus.
They're like, you're not made for war.
They're like, you have to prepare for your owls.
Fuck the owls.
Did you eat your oatmeal before your owls?
No, I had some human flesh and some placenta, though. Suck that up in my proboscis.
Proboscis. Sweet. God damn it, you guys. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, the Lord's Day, and you are delivered.
Yeah, we've delivered you.
Hello?
The power of Christ has compelled you to crank that shit to Radio Grave Podcast.
Yeah, pop that pussy to Radio Grave Podcast.
Literally.
You know how my grandma would say it?
Huh?
Radio Grave.
No.
Radio.
Really?
Radio Grave.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Gertrude. You're the bomb.
So this week we will
'cause
be...
it's Sunday.
Yeah, it's Sunday. We will be beginning our big ass fucking series for November.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
We'll catch you next time.
We'll catch you this Thursday.
Peace.
Goodbye. Peace out.
At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere. It is speculated that these objects are of extraterrestrial origin. The broadcast will quiet at this time for your safety. Continue to carry out the following instructions.
Radio Grave Podcast is hosted by Amber Byland and Dominique Makasuya. Music courtesy of AOA Music, Carl Casey at Whitebat Audio, and intro music by Simon Bigbyling. Audio mixing and editing by Amber Byland, logo and original art by Dominique Makasuya. Special thanks to Selma and Obi Henneke, Austin Smith, and all our supporters on Patreon. All other media and sound clips used are protected under fair use and are for the purpose of criticism, commentary, news reporting, education, and research. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.